Be yourself, because when you're by yourself, that's who you really are. And that's what I'm going to be talking about today. So welcome back to another Ride Along series with me, guys. So today I'm going to be talking about being yourself and being your best self, the best version of yourself. And this is something that we hear often, especially if you're if you're in the personal development space. You hear this a lot from people who are inspirational, motivational, be your best self, live your best life, and and it's great. I'm all about that, being your best self, living your best life. And, you hear people talking about this all the time, and you hear what they're doing to take steps to doing that. And one of the things that I've realized is that in this road of personal development or personal growth, when you're trying to be your best self, when you're trying to live your best life, one of the things I've realized is that you have to truly embrace who you are as a person, right? You have to embrace yourself. Excuse me. So when I was younger, right, and even till this day, my dad would always say to me, listen, be yourself, because when you're by yourself, that's who you really are. And I've always held on to that because I've always felt it to be exhausting trying to be somebody else or something that I'm not. And I'll put it to you this way. It can come off sometimes, I guess, as a character flaw because, a lot of times I'm just like, when I'm meeting people, new people, I'm just like, listen, man, I am who I am. You got to accept me as I am. I'm not, I'm just me. So when you meet me, you're always going to meet me because, the best person that I know how to be is myself. I used to be a school teacher and I would tell my students that all the time, man. I would I just tell them, listen, man, I'm just me because I really don't know how to be anybody else. I've been me for this long. Who else? It's too tiring. You know what I mean? It's a lot of work just being me. But the reason I brought this up and about being you and being your best self is because, I had some interesting conversations lately with people. And what I've been noticing is that a lot of times when you decide to break apart from the society norms, right? Okay. What can happen is people can tend to judge you and you might feel like you're doing something that's off or, maybe you're doing something that's silly and something that's foolish. So I'll give you an example by telling you a little bit of a story. So as of lately, over this last year or so, I've been going to a lot of different networking events over the past couple of years, actually. I've been going to a lot of different networking events. And if you've been to networking events, then you understand how they go. Usually you meet a couple of people, you talk, you see what each other does, and then after a while you exchange information. And the question always comes down to, you always hear these two questions. What do you do, right? And do you have a card? So first of all, I kind of a little annoyed with the what do you do question, but that's another conversation. The question, or what I'm going to focus on, is the do you have a card question. So me, when it comes to business cards, I've always been like behind the ball on this, right? Either I have them or I don't have them. I've never been consistent with having them. And I've always been trying to work out a system to be more and more consistent with having them, right? Because when people are like, oh, do you have a card? You want to have something that you can give them in exchange, right? Now, one thing I used to do is sometimes I would have my business card, sometimes I wouldn't. Other times, I had met somebody one time and they had actually sent me a text of their business card. So they had a digital business card. Now, I thought that this was a brilliant idea because you never run out of business cards. You can change the design whenever you want to, and essentially you have an unlimited supply because all you're doing is texting it to the person. So I had tried that for a little bit, and then I came across another technique where you actually take a selfie, a picture with the person that you're talking to, and then you email them that picture with you in it, with all your contact information and your social links. So now I got this technique out of a book that I was reading, but I thought it was such a great technique. I really liked it. And I thought it was fun. It was something different. It was a break from the norm, right? Because so many times we come across the norm. And a lot of times when I meet people, I really don't even know if they are who they say that they are or who they're presenting themselves to be, right? So I started taking this technique of taking a selfie with the person that I was meeting and emailing that information out with all my social links and my contact info. Now, one of the things that I've learned in my time of doing this networking and everything else is that, listen, most people really don't care if you have a business card or not. If they want to do business with you, they're going to do business with you, because at the end of the day, all you're going to do is get people's contact information. You know, I don't know what people do with business cards. I myself put them into some type of a CRM, some kind of contact, whatever, add it to my phone, and I just toss the card. Right? So if not, you'll just have a stack of business cards. And then the next thing you know is that you'll have a stack of business cards and you won't remember what anybody's face looks like, unless it might have been somebody that you did something with specifically. And so I started taking this technique and practice of taking a selfie and emailing it to the person. Now, when I had initially started using this, a couple of people who, know me, they seen it and they were like, I don't know, dude, that's kind of like silly. I think it's kind of like not professional per se. Or it was the other side where it's like, oh yeah, that's cool, but that seems like it would work for you and not for me. Okay, whatever. So I liked the idea. I thought it was cool and I started to implement it. And what I notice is that most times when people see me actually doing it, right? Not so much the person that I'm talking to. I'll get to that in 1 second. But when people see me actually doing it, they think it's foolish. They think it's silly, right? And now when I'm doing it with the person that I'm actually exchanging information with, right? So I came up with a smooth way of doing this, because a lot of times people will be like, oh, do you have a card? And I just say yes, even though I don't have a card. I say, yeah, do you have a card? And they say, yeah. So they'll give me their card. And then I'll say, actually, you know what? I don't carry cards, but this is what I do. So I like to take a picture with you, right? I'll email you all my contacts, all my info, all my social links. And then this way, you remember that it was me that you were talking to, because now we got a picture together. You get to see my face, right? And, people are like, oh, wow. And then they'll say, oh, that's a pretty cool idea. Or same thing, they'll say, oh, well, you're a photo video guy, so it figures, and I throw that in there too. Right before I take that picture, I'll be like, well, since I'm a photo video guy, I'm a visual guy, I like to do this, right? Now, when somebody else is maybe watching me do this, they're like, oh man, that's like kind of silly, like it's kind of ridiculous, right? But here's the thing. I have actually gotten a lot of letters or responses back from those follow-up emails, right? About people really liking the idea. So I'll give you a quick breakdown. I'm talking to somebody, blah, 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 blah. Well, the next question comes, do you have a card? No, but I take the picture and then I follow up with them, just like I would if I took their business card, right? Follow up with them, say a little something, and now they see my picture. Well, there's been a few times where people will say, you know what, man, I thought that was actually kind of silly, but it's really effective, right? So check this out. I was at an event just a few months ago, and now I'll tell you what, the room was a little bit stuffy. A little, well-to-do, how you do, pinkies in the air, right? It was a bit stuffy, all right? So, a lot of times you have very strong norms and traditions, and people are not breaking these bad boys because, well, that's what they do. So I meet this guy, we get to talking. Now it's time to exchange the information. I say, hey man, he goes, you got a card? I said, no, but I do my whole thing, right? And, it's first it's it's kind of silly, right? That's the initial reaction. It's like, oh, it's a little silly. But then just a few weeks later, okay, he sends me an email and he's telling me how much of a great idea that he thought that sending the picture was with the follow-up email. And so much so that he wanted to share the technique and tactic with his marketing group and his networking group so they can begin to implement it into their own networking and marketing efforts. What do you know? Right? So listen, sometimes you do things and they might seem foolish. They might feel foolish because they're not the norm. They're not what people are used to. But do it anyway, especially if it fits your personality, right? Be as genuine as you can possibly be. See, when those people meet me, they've met me. They've met Jonathan Moore. They didn't meet Jonathan Moore's representative. They didn't meet who I'm trying to be or who I'm pretending to be. They met me, right? So you either take me as you found me, or you leave me where you found me, how you found me, just how you found me. right where you found me. Whatever, I don't know, but you get what I'm saying. So be the best you. And in order to do that, you got to be your best self. You have to just be you, man. You have to let your personality be your personality. And it might not fit what everybody else does, but guess what? It doesn't matter because it's you and it's genuine and it's true to who you are, even if you were by yourself, right? So like my dad always says, and I'll leave it off with this, be yourself, because when you're by yourself, that's who you really are. Until next time, people. Peace.